It says, "You're beautiful beyond description, more marvelous for words, too wonderful for comprehension, like nothing ever seen or heard. Who can grasp your infinite wisdom?" Ever heard that one? Who can fathom the depths of your love? You're beautiful beyond description, majesty enthroned above. And that's what this system says. Who can grasp His infinite wisdom? It's just marvelous beyond all of our comprehension. It's a tremendous system, and I hope it makes a pretty compelling, airtight case that this could never, ever have evolved through any slow processes, but was lovingly made, lovingly designed when God spoke into existence His creation, formed Adam from the dust of the ground, breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and lovingly formed him a helper suitable for him, of which they, through fully functional systems, could do exactly what He wanted them to do, and that is have loving children and establish loving families. And that is the blessing of the reproductive system. Thank you very much. Well, do we have time for questions, or should we go?
Please repeat the question.
I will repeat the question. Thank you. Yes, sir.
What's the reason for women not breastfeeding babies then?
What's the reason for them not doing it?
If the little things start squeezing the milk out,
Mm-hmm.
the baby's controlling breast enlargement, why do some women not breastfeed then?
Well, that's a good point. So how can they not make it? Well, all women will initially start to make some milk, but it's a positive feedback mechanism, so it needs the continued sucking action. It needs the continued action to cause the oxytocin to continue to be released, the prolactin to continue to be released in order to maintain the development of the breast tissues. If you don't get that positive feedback, or we can even stop it with drugs, you can shut down that whole system. So unless the baby they're actually feeding and sucking on the breast, the milk production will eventually stop, because you need that positive feedback to happen. Now, you raise a good question though, why don't women breastfeed? I don't know. Breast is best, as they say, for the baby. Not only is it the best food combination for the baby, but at the same time, also being excreted in mom's breast milk are other antibodies that she has in her body. Remember, they pass through the placenta, but even as baby is breastfeeding, it's also picking up other antibodies, and that antibody boost that the baby gets continues as long as baby is breastfeeding. So breastfeeding has a lot of benefits, but only as the cycles continue to be utilized. Yes, sir, in the back. And then I see your hand.
Could you comment on what occurs with premature delivery? 7 weeks early?
All right. Well, it's a very, very complicated process. So, okay, he wants to know what happens in premature delivery and premature. And it can go everywhere from what we call a stillbirth or a miscarriage all the way up to premature delivery. And the answer is a lot of things can happen, and it would take a long time to answer them because the process is so complex that it can break. You can have mistakes and breakdown in a number of areas. But basically, on early pregnancies, let's say within the first 6 to 12 weeks of gestation, most of the time when there is a miscarriage or stillbirth, it's due to some kind of most of the time, chromosomal abnormalities within the baby and in the placenta, causing a disturbance in the production of the HCG, the progesterone, or the implantation. All of those things can have a place where you can have a mistake. And usually there's a chromosomal abnormality which causes that problem to happen. Later, and that's usually in the early loss of pregnancy. In later pregnancies, you're talking from 22 weeks all the way up through term of that. The loss of the pregnancy there is usually due to something that's happening at the placental uterine interface. The production doesn't happen. the placenta starts to detach. There's a disease that happens inside there, or something along those lines, and that causes a breakdown. So I'm speaking very broadly. There could be things at either ones, but that's what happens generally in both of those areas. Because, as you can see, and frankly, I've made it simpler than it really is tonight. It's hard for you to believe that, but I've even made it simpler than it really is. It's it's even much more complex than this. Yes, sir.
Genesis talks about God saying to the woman, because of your disobedience, I will greatly multiply your pain in childbirth. How do you reconcile this with the tremendous system that's there? Have you identified how that could have happened, or does that still need some research?
Probably does need some research. He also says, I'll multiply your conception and the pain in childbirth. So we're left to speculate. We're left to speculate, what was it like before the curse on that? Could it be that instead of having an opportunity to get pregnant every month, maybe women only had the season of pregnancy fewer times in a year? That might have been it, which in some sense has a little benefit to mother in having all of that. And in regards to the pain, I don't know exactly what the Lord did in that particular case. However, as we all can see from the system here, just the stretching of the tissue, the crunching of the uterus, the cramping, and all of that other kind of stuff, it did something to it. I don't know, just pure speculation. Can't speak to that. Yes, ma'am.
Do you know anything about the appendix and immune action in a fetus?
I don't know so much about the fetus. So let's just talk. The question is, do you know about the appendix and immune action in the fetus? Well, I don't know exactly what it's doing in the fetus. The appendix in a human being is another sensory point in your body where you have lymph tissue. You have all different kinds of lymph tissue. You have lymph nodes, you have a spleen, and you have these other little sentinel areas like tonsils and stuff. And they're at strategic points where things come into your body, or there's changes of things in your body. So you have tonsils because you breathe and you eat, and they're constantly sensing